performance compare with Bill Moseley, who replaced him as Mayor Buckman in the sequel?
Yeah, it's like it's the inevitable question, isn't it? And it's tough because I am fond of both of them, Robert and Bill, as people, as actors. I am mega fans of them both, and having directed them both in the same character, I really love both performances. I recently saw the first one over again, in between, the other day. They're very different interpretations, and I think they're both very valid. Just like I love Daniel Craig and I love Sean Connery. Robert Robert comes from a theater background. Robert's very theatrical. He's very physical. He's very, broad, and that was what we brought to the first Mayor Buckman. Robert really was the axis around which everything revolved in the first film. With Bill decided that because, so many of the characters he had portrayed, Chop Top, Otis, they were so larger than he wanted to be more understated. He wanted it to, be more. He said he sort of approached it like Jimmy Stewart, in The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, and he played it more as the straight man, and let Granny and Lynn and the other maniacs sort of, be the crazies, and he was more of the master of ceremonies. And I thought, it was a very valid, and we were all wondering what was it. We said, none of us, he and I were like, no, we're not going to imitate Robert. We're not going to try and be Robert. We're just, and he just came to the table read and showed and did his thing for the first time, and we all were like, that'll do.
With the publicly acknowledged studio interference in the first film, was making the sequel a lot less stressful for you?
Absolutely. It was, of all my films I've ever worked on, it was the most stress-free experience I've ever had. I understand very much on the first film. It was my first time out. We all were second-guessing how far to push the humor. The script was very broad, and we all, myself included, held back. And on this one, I figured, all right, I held back on the first time. I'm not going to do it on the second one. And there was no one holding me back because we got the rights. Chris Tuffin, who has been the consistent producer on both of them, he got the rights to the film back, so that it was no longer. And the first film was produced by 3 entities. That's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. Everybody had a different idea, and they're all protecting their investment. I get it. But on this one, we were able to make it between pre-sales and tax incentives, so we didn't have anybody's dime to really answer to, and we were told by the people who invested in it, make it the way you want to make it. So we went back to a lot of the original concepts of the first film that we weren't able to address, and we really went wild with it. I figured that the setup of the Maniacs was sort of there from the first film and from the comic book. So at this point, it was like it was more about a series of skits, like this bloody variety show where here's a little song and dance with the Granny and the Gales. Now here's a little joke. Here's a little sex scene. Here's a little murder. Here's a little stand up from Buckman, and it was designed to be like that, a very a Grand Guignol variety show that you might have seen in the Rue Morgue back in the day, and it was liberating because everybody on set got the vibe and brought their A game, and also went to great lengths to outdo each other with craziness and bizarreness, and we just had a blast. I mean, it was just like 50 people in Iowa on the Missouri River just making a monster movie.
So do you want to do it again? Will 2001 Maniacs be a trilogy?
Yeah, everybody's talking about it. The fans already. I mean, they always, they wait. As soon as it's over, they want more. I'm like, well, give me a chance to tell another story first. But the distributors want it, and quite honestly, I do feel that maybe more than some other franchises, this does lend itself because the massacre in Pleasant Valley happened in 1864. So there's like a century and a half of festivals that we could deal with. I mean, I could go back in time and set a movie in '69 and have it be some hippies on the way to Woodstock. Jimi Hendrix meets the Maniacs. Or I could jump ahead and have it be modern day and have it be the Taliban ends up in Pleasant Valley, and it's the Maniacs versus the Al Qaeda. There's a lot of different crazy, wacky ways to go with it. They're really the only formula is. As they've told me, as long as it has, blood, laughs, and nakedness, we're happy. So there's a lot of, I think the South will rise again and again and again.
And finally, you've expressed an interest in remaking Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Yes.
That had finally got a DVD release here recently, and in my review of it, I did say this is one film that was a great concept, poorly executed, and needs a remake.
Well,
please do it. And please do it properly.
I would love to, and I would love to do it properly. I think it was a great concept. One of the things that fascinates me about that film is prior to what Rob Zombie did in his remake of Halloween, I can't think of another film that really showed the genesis of a serial killer from, what happened to him as a young boy, and then, and what's interesting is the monsters along the way that contributed to him, which, a theme of mine, the authority figures, the establishment, the Catholic Church, the teachers, the preachers, and all those people that, the youth rallies against.
They turned Billy into the monster he became.
They did.
But the film didn't really explore that.
Exactly. And that was always, there was some, it was in there, but in the end it was more about, Leanna Quigley naked being impaled on some antler, ears. Some deer antlers. Interestingly enough, at the time that movie came out in 1985, I was in film school, and I was so taken with the concept of a Santa Claus monster that the first, my big thesis film was called A Christmas Treat, and it's a 5-minute little music video to Nat King Cole's Chestnuts Roasting on an Open Fire with a very nasty ending. And every Christmas I still send it out. It's been on YouTube, so it would be almost like coming full circle. And, my management company is Evolution and Twisted Pictures, and they do the Saw movies, and they have a bunch of 80s horror movies that they have the rights to remake, of which this is one of them. So this is sort of on the front burner for when I get back to LA, and it will not be campy like Maniacs. It will have, some of those elements, but just the idea of thinking of ways to kill people with Christmas-oriented murders is just, I can't wait.
Tim Sullivan, thank you very much.
Thank you.